Hello, and thanks for tuning in to yet another episode of Whether or Not. We have a great show lined up for you this week. Jackie has a feature recapping some weather-inspired art from last weekend's Arts Fest. And of course, Brandon is back with your state college forecast. All this and more, Whether or Not, starts right now. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Whether or Not. For today's show, I'm your host, Sydney Daniel.
And I'm your forecaster, Brandon Orr.
Well, Brandon, this past week I've been out golfing a little bit, and all I can say is it has been hot.
It has been very hot, especially on Tuesday. We hit a high of 95 degrees. That ties the record here in State College for that day. Even on Wednesday, we were still in the 90s. We hit 90 degrees at the airport on Wednesday. But relief is not only approaching, but Sydney, it's already here knocking on our doorstep.
Well, Brandon, I can't wait to hear how much the temperatures will drop this weekend. But before we get to that, let's head to Nature in the News.
The Bradwater Ultra Marathon took place this past week, where ultra marathon runners ran 135 miles from California's Death Valley to the portal of Mount Whitney. The winner with a time of 22 hours and 52 minutes was Mike Morton. What makes this race interesting, besides the distance, is the weather conditions and phenomenon that occurs. Daytime temperatures during the race, July 16th through July the 18th, reached 120 degrees, upholding a UV index of 10 every day, and lows only settling into the 80s and 90s during the nighttime hours. While runners are followed by support teams who ensure the athletes stay hydrated, viewers of the ultra marathon are urged to stay inside air-conditioned cars and offices rather than view the race from the sidelines. Since we have had dry conditions here in State College these past few weeks, it is most important to keep yourself hydrated, out of the sun, and if you are in the sun, find shade from a cap or tree while wearing sunscreen during this summer heat.
It has been reported many times that climate change and global warming is upon us. Two professors at Harvard University are proposing an experiment that mimics what happens naturally from large volcanic eruptions in order to add some relief to warming environmental temperatures. The idea comes from blocking sunlight, our planet's main source of energy, and injecting sulfate particles into the atmosphere where they would combine with water vapor to form aerosols, which could reflect some of the sun's rays. The atmospheric chemistry and applied physics professor at Harvard say that the amounts in the experiment would be so small that they would not have a local, regional, or global effect, and that the study would only be putting micro amounts of sulfate particles into the air with the goal of learning how they combine with water vapor and affect atmospheric ozone.
This past week, a glacier twice the size of Manhattan, New York, broke apart from Greenland. Researchers are saying it is too early to point the blame at any environmental phenomenon, including global warming. Researcher Andreas Muenchow stated in a press release, however, that northwest Greenland and northeast Canada are warming more than 5 times faster than the rest of the world. But the observed warming is not proof that the diminishing ice shelf is caused by this, because air temperatures have little effect on this glacier, but ocean temperatures do. And our ocean temperature time series are only 5 to 8 years long, which is too short to establish a robust warming signal. The massive chunk of ice is expected to enter the Nares Strait between Greenland and Canada, where it will then break into smaller icebergs.
Since record keeping began in 1895, this graphic created from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Climate Data Center ranked June 2012 in 6th place for the greatest percent area of contiguous U.S. covered by moderate or greater drought. It is being noted that the disaster could be one of the top 10 most expensive weather-related disasters in U.S. history. The cost of the 2012 drought are certain to be many billions of dollars and are being compared to what was seen during the 1988 drought across America. Brandon is up next with your Central PA forecast and whether or not our local area is contributing to this nationwide drought.
Certainly, Sydney, a lot of the West is experiencing that severe drought. Even portions of the Rockies experiencing an extreme drought. Here closer to home, we are experiencing a severe drought through portions of the Midwest and even Ohio Valley, especially here in these red colors through portions of Indiana and over towards northern Missouri, where the corn crop is taking a fairly hefty toll. They're in need of some dire rain. Here closer to home in Pennsylvania, we're looking okay. We've had a wet spring that has helped us out, although some of this lighter drought is starting to creep into places like Erie, Pennsylvania, down into Pittsburgh as well. But some rain we're getting with the storm system passing to our south on Friday will help keep that drought at bay throughout the state of Pennsylvania. But as we head into the weekend, we're looking okay. Like I said, that rain will clear out on the day on Friday, seeing warm and dry conditions coming up for the weekend, right around 80 degrees, fairly seasonable for this time of year. Most of the heat will be confined out towards the Plain states, where we're expecting temperatures in the triple digits from Dallas, Texas, all the way up into the Central Plains. But that, again, will stay out into the Plain states, leaving us with a very comfortable weekend. We just have to get through some of this rain that will be coming up for the day on Friday. That rain and its associated cloud cover will also lower our temperatures quite a bit. Look at this, a high of only 72 degrees coming up for Friday. But again, some of that on and off rain could be heavy, looking on the order of maybe 1 to 2 inches of rainfall during the day on Friday. Some areas could pick up a little bit more than that. But that rain will turn into a more showery pattern during the overnight hours on Friday. Look at this, a low of 60 degrees, scattered showers, dew points lowering quite a bit as well into the upper 50s. So it's going to feel a lot more comfortable out. As we start the weekend on Saturday, still, look at this, temperatures into the upper 70s, drying out. Could see maybe a few isolated showers in the morning, but the clouds will begin to break up by later in the day on Saturday. And by Saturday night, very comfortable night with dew points in the upper 50s to right around 60 degrees, maybe a few scattered clouds rather around the area. And by ending out the weekend on Sunday, 83 degrees, maybe an isolated shower storm later in the day, especially out to the west. After the Weather Whiz Quiz, Jackie Lair will return with a glimpse back at Arts Fest in downtown State College.
With the Central Pennsylvania Festival of the Arts taking over downtown State College this past weekend, I decided to check out all the festivities just to see how much the weather affects the artists and the events featured at the festival.
The hot, humid weather mixed with overcast skies and some light rain showers didn't stop over 125,000 people from attending the festival this past weekend to not only enjoy the music, the food, but especially the art. Considering it was a hot and sticky mid-July weekend, the water buckets display did see a lot of action because it gave children and Penn State students Chelsea and Jenna a reason to cool off between different activities.
So we just went under the buckets and it's feeling really humid out, so it was the perfect fix for that. It was a lot of fun. I kind of got wrecked at the end, but it was great. It was a lot of fun doing it.
When it came time to take a look at the art and the vendors, I ran into Jennifer Vanderhorn, a Penn State meteorology student who enjoyed a certain artist's paintings more than the rest.
So there's a guy on the campus side that has weather paintings, so I want to go back and talk to him and maybe see what his inspiration for those were.
As I continued to walk throughout the festival, I actually found 2 artists that were inspired by weather and nature, the most out of all the other featured artists. First, I caught up with Mike Albin, who worked with his wife to capture the beauty of nature in a unique combination of photography and paint.
I do the photography in the center of each piece, and my wife hand paints each frame one at a time with a paintbrush and a palette. And I do nature photography because I love being out in the woods, away from my fellow man, peace and quiet. It really works out well because she likes painting what I like taking photographs of, and this is our unique combination of what we do.
Then I caught up with artist William McCarthy, who is inspired by atmospheric landscapes.
The paintings are, I can call them atmospheric, because that's what I'm trying to capture. Instead of trying to capture the perfect pin oak or the perfect maple, I'm actually trying to capture like a sense of time of day, or a sense of evening light or afternoon light, or just trying to capture those little special moments of the day that sometimes we just zoom right on by.
But not all of nature inspires Mr. McCarthy.
Tried working in the landscape. It was too windy and too many bugs, and then I tried photographs, and the photographs made the work feel very stiff. So I devised this way. Actually, it's an old technique of doing the thumbnail sketches.
Whether it be art influenced by weather or weather influenced by art, the annual Arts Festival was another great success. It was so great to see all the community support for all these artists, especially the ones who are so inspired by nature and the weather. I guess this is where science and arts all come together here at the Arts Festival at Penn State. Until next time, I'm student meteorologist Jackie Layer for Weather or Not.
Well, now that the heat from earlier this week has finally scooted out of the area, it looks like it could make somewhat of a return coming up for next week. But first, we have to get through some of these very nice temperatures coming up for this weekend. Look at this on Friday, 72 degrees. Now, this is not a low. That's a daytime high coming up on Friday into the low 70s. Remember that rainfall could be a little bit heavy at times, especially during the morning or midday hours on Friday. Friday night, we start to clear out, still have a few showers around, but the humidity is going to be lowering. So it's not going to feel too sticky out with temperatures much cooler than what we've seen during the overnight hours, right around 60 degrees. On Saturday, rising up into the upper 70s, plenty of sunshine as we start to clear out, especially later in the day on Saturday. And as we end out the weekend on Sunday, a few afternoon scattered showers and thunderstorms, highs rising up once again into the low 80s. But by the time we head into next week, Sydney, we're starting to see a very repetitive pattern take place as temperatures stay right around the mid-80s throughout the week, with typical summertime afternoon showers and thunderstorms popping up.
Yes, Brandon, and thunderstorms are a possibility when we are seeing temperatures in the mid-80s, along with warm air filtering into the area, but I'm hoping the thunderstorms won't be too disruptive. And when I'm speaking of disturbances and being disruptive, I'm leading into our Weather Whiz Quiz question this week, and we asked you at home, what was the costliest U.S. weather disaster since 1980? Was it A, the drought of 1988, B, Hurricane Andrew of 1982, C, Hurricane Katrina 2005, or D, the major Mississippi River flooding of 2008? And the answer, Brandon, is C, Hurricane Katrina of 2005.
You know, Sydney, that's not too surprising because we have heard a lot of news coming out of Hurricane Katrina. We're almost still hearing about it, even though we're about 7 years after the storm has hit. But the reason it cost $146 billion in damage is the geography. In southern Louisiana, even towards southern Alabama, towards Mobile Bay, a lot of those areas are right at sea level or even a little bit below sea level. There's a lot of homes in the area, so when levees fail and you get a lot of that storm surge, all the water piling up against the coast, it can do quite a bit of damage.
Yes, that is very true, but I wouldn't be surprised if viewers at home thought the answer could have been A, the drought of 1988, which I mentioned earlier in the show. That's being compared to what we're seeing across the nation this month in July. Well, we have a show coming up next week for you guys. Jackie will be back as your forecaster for Weather or Not, but that is all the time we have for today. I'm your host, Sydney Daniel.
And I'm your forecaster, Brandon Orr.
Have a great day.